I have one of the best cheesecake recipes in the world. Sorry, I am biased. It is very good. It's better than Eli's, and it's better than Cheesecake Factory. It's very creamy. It's very easy to make. Just a few ingredients. It is baked, but that's okay. And let me tell you, you start making this for your family, and you're going to be bringing this easy dessert to every holiday and birthday party from now on. Several hours before you start making the cheesecake, get 3 8-ounce packages of cream cheese. Don't get the fat-free, don't get the light, just get the regular name brand, and put them into your bowl and let them sit with a towel over them, because you need for this cream cheese to soften, and just let it sit on the counter for, I don't know, anywhere from 2 hours to 5 or 6 hours even. If you don't do that and you forget and it's been sitting in your refrigerator, then if you have a heat-proof bowl, you can set it on top of the oven. Don't microwave it. If you're going to stick it in a warm oven, you got to be really careful and not get it all melty, okay? You just need it soft enough so that it can blend in the blender. The first thing you're going to do is set the temperature for 350, and then the other thing you're going to do, and I'm going to back away and show you inside the oven, you're going to put a pan, a 9x13 pan, in the oven in the lowest rack, and put about a ½ inch of water in the pan, and slide that in while the oven's cold and let it heat up. This is going to make for a moist cheesecake. For this recipe, you'll need a 10-inch Springform pan. That's what this spring is here. And if you've never seen one of these before, they open like this to serve. And actually, I should have it on a flat surface, but you snap it back in place. They come in various sizes, and 10 inches is in diameter. This recipe will also work for a 9x13 pan, but with one adjustment that I'll show you in a moment. To make the crust, buy a box of graham cracker crumbs. They're already crumbled for you. Don't buy the crackers and crumble them. It's way too much work. So 1 1/4 cups of graham cracker crumbs, 1/4 cup of sugar. Stir that together lightly. And then what we're going to do is pour in 6 tablespoons of melted butter. I use the salted butter. You can use unsalted if you want. I like a little salt in it. And if you're going to microwave this butter to melt it, just be very careful that it doesn't boil over. So I'm just going to pour that right in and stir it up. Now this is where, if you're doing a 9x13 pan, you're going to have to double the recipe for the graham cracker crust. So if you're doing a 9x13 pan, then you want 2½ cups of graham cracker crumbs, 1/2 cup of sugar, and what would that be? 12 tablespoons of butter, which would be 1.5 sticks. Alright, so I've stirred up all that butter. Now we're ready to pour it into the pan. You don't have to butter the pan or anything. You just put the crumbs in that have been mixed up in the last step, and then spread it out first with the spoon, and then you can go ahead and pat it, actually do it right away, pat it with your hand. You don't do it up the sides in this recipe, you don't need to. So if you can see that, I'm just pressing it down with my fingers. It's got just enough butter in it to hold it together. And now we're ready to make the cheesecake part. We're going to start by mixing the 3 8-ounce packages of the regular cream cheese that's now been softened. Sometimes my kitchen is a little bit cold, so sometimes it takes a little longer to cream it. And I'm not going to make you watch the whole thing, but I obviously have a nice mixer. By hand, it will take a little longer. depending on how soft your cream cheese is. And then you can stop, just scrape down, which you often have to do, and get some of the thicker parts of the cream cheese out of the beater. You need to scrape down the sides. And of course, if you get any on your hand, you might have to lick it off and then wash your hands. But you want it to be really creamy before you add the next ingredient. Obviously, you want to use your biggest bowl so it doesn't splatter out. And I'll lift this so you can see inside how creamy it gets. I'm going to scrape that down one more time. Maybe I'm going to make you watch this. It's coming together pretty quickly. And you can tell by using your spatula if it feels creamy or not. If it feels cold and like it's just too stiff, then it just needs to warm up a bit. And as long as the beaters are getting through it, you can go ahead and use the beaters to do that. Okay, I'm going to scrape it down one more time, and then I'm going to start adding the sugar. But you add the sugar gradually while the beaters are moving. So I want to get as much of this down as possible. And I'm going to move that beater a little bit. Okay. So now, while this is going, fairly slowly, I'm going to put it on this side. I'm going to slowly pour in the sugar. Side. And then do it fast again. And that was 1 cup of sugar, sorry. Oh, the beater in the back. Scrape it down again. The next thing we're going to add are 3 eggs, and we're going to add them one at a time. I always break the egg into a small bowl, or even a coffee cup would work. But you don't add them while the beaters are running. So I have 1 broken right now. So when it means 1 at a time, it means turn that on. Actually, it won't hurt to add it while it's, as long as it's moving slowly, you can add it while it's moving. This will make it a little bit more yellow, of course. Good time to stop and scrape it down. I have some on the sides that isn't getting incorporated. And some on the beater. I'm going to get all of that cream cheese incorporated and beaten up by the beaters. The next thing we're going to add is 1 teaspoon of vanilla. Don't use imitation vanilla, use the real thing. And I like to work with the bottle after. Give it a little. And we have 1 more ingredient to add. I'm going to put up the beaters for this. And that's a 16-ounce container of sour cream. Get regular sour cream. Don't get low fat. I once did that by mistake, and I did not like how the cheesecake tasted. Get a premium brand if you can. And this one comes all sealed up. So I'm just going to get a spoon and spoon it in. Want that beater out of the way. Just spoon it right in to the bowl. 16 ounces this was. And give it another turn on the beater. You might look at it one more time just to make sure that everything's mixed in, because you don't want any cream cheese lumps. Go ahead and clean off the beater. Give it a little stir underneath just to make sure. Clean off the spatula. Otherwise you're going to have to lick the beater and the spatula. And give it maybe one more turn. All right, now we're ready to pour this into the pan. Now we're ready to pour the batter into the pan. And you just pour it all in. So again, if you're doing a 9 by 13 instead of a 10-inch Springform, you don't have to change the recipe for the cheesecake filling. You're just going to have a thinner cake, which is fine. This is a very rich cheesecake, but people often come back for seconds. Okay, so after it's in there, just spread it so that it's even on top to the edges. And now we're ready to put it in the oven. Put the cheesecake on the middle rack and bake it for 40 minutes. The cheesecake is ready to come out of the oven, and I want you to see how it looks when it's done. So as I pull it out, you'll notice the middle is a little bit wobbly, and that's okay. You see some slight cracks around the edge. When it's starting to crack a little bit, it is done even though it's wobbly in the middle. Now that hot pan of water, I'm going to let that sit in the oven until the oven cools down and the water cools down. You don't want to be carrying a pan of hot water to the sink to dump. Okay, so now I'm ready to put this on a cooling rack. Let the cheesecake sit until it's completely cool. After it's cool, I cover it with plastic wrap and then with foil and put it in the refrigerator for at least 4 hours. Overnight is even better. Now, after it cools down and is refrigerated, it's going to crack a little bit more on top. But I just take a butter knife and cover that up. And then my family likes it served with, this is kind of dark, cherry pie filling on top. And I just buy it in a can. I know I'm not usually a can person, but they love the cherries on top. It's actually very good. A little bit of the tart cherry with the sweet cheesecake. It is yummy.